What's up, volleyball fans? I'm Darren Tipton, and welcome to the VBAdrenaline podcast. Our podcast, we will dive deep into the heart of the game, bringing you the hottest topics, prospects, and a buzz surrounding prep and college volleyball, especially the world of recruiting. In each episode, our crew will spotlight rising stars who are shaking up the national game. Plus, we will serve you the scoop on current events that have coaches and fans talking courtside. Tune in for the episodes that spotlight tomorrow's college stars, new trends in the sport, plus interviews that will keep you informed on the explosion that is volleyball in the USA. You can connect with us on social media, Instagram at VBAdrenaline.com_ and Twitter at VBAdrenaline. Be part of the conversation. Share your thoughts on your favorite players, prospects, and predictions by using hashtag VBAdrenaline. So grab a seat, volleyball fans, and get ready to dive into the world of spikes, sets, and serves with the VBAdrenaline podcast. See you there. Everybody, welcome back. VBAdrenaline podcast. I know. We're supposed to stay on schedule here, but life got a little crazy. So we're back. And we got a new co-host. So Mac Podraza, welcome to the team. And everybody is happy to see you.
I'm happy to be here. Always love to talk volleyball. Like I said last time, chat and volley, gave you some new lingo.
Well, we don't chat volley a lot. A lot of times we get off topic and we chat a lot of things. But yes, they are excited that you will be here and chatting a lot more volley than we had before. But again, we're talking volleyball, recruiting, everything going on and around the game, prep talk, recruiting talk, college talk. Max here. We might even have to talk some pro volleyball a little bit. I really don't know anything about that, but I do know
in the pro volleyball world.
I know I'm an Omaha fan now.
Go Supernovas. Right.
Supernovas. God, we didn't have a battle. Coach Amy Pauly's she's been our super recruiter, our super stat gal evaluator, and now Orlando Omaha rivalry.
It's gonna be a big game.
Well, and Bird and I go way back.
Bird goes way back with everybody. It's hard to find someone who doesn't know Bird.
I know. She was one of the OGs I met the very first night, Kansas City, like 9 years ago when I met my very first college volleyball people. Like I said, we get distracted, we get off topic. But let's get back. So we have so much to talk about, and bringing back on not only to the site staff has helped a ton, but with this podcast, and we'll have guests from time to time, but even just having her and I to talk about things and so much to catch up on. And we left off with Marley Smith and her father talking recruiting. And like a Dumbo, I somehow erased the second half of that interview. If I find it, we will rebroadcast that. But kind of leads into what we're going to talk about now. But so much has changed even in that 6 weeks since we've been away. We'll try and find a great place to start. But Mac, changes. And let's start with the new rules, if we even know what the new rules are. And the first thing we know of is the wiping away of the national letter of intent. We'll try and not misspeak. We just know there is no more national letter of intent. And
that's crazy because that's going to be something that changes as soon as this class, correct?
Yeah, it's no more national letter of intent. And I mean, let's really make things crazy, NCAA. No more. The big word has been NIL, which means money, right? Take a picture of you, put it on a billboard, and pay you for it. Mm-hmm. That's what it was supposed to mean.
Right.
What it really meant was, let's pay you to come to my school is what it turned into. Of course, we knew that's what it would be. With certain schools would misuse that. And
that's where it's going to go with getting rid of the national letter of intent. NIL is what's going to be the contract, I think, that these kids are signing.
We'll go much deeper into that. I think some places, as we knew they did that right away. But so there was NIL, which meant endorsements, basically.
Name, image, likeness.
Yep. Name, image, likeness. NLI was National Letter of Intent. That was the document that you signed for decades to go to a school, which basically meant you signed a contract to get your school paid for. You committed to a school. So when they said you're a commit, you were committing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that was the national letter that you signed. We misuse that a lot. We say committed. Right now, all these athletes are verbals. They verbally, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But they would, until they had signing day, they were just a verbal. Now, to make it really complicated, in volleyball, that normally held true. In other sports, like where I came from, that didn't mean anything. In football, you got to verbal to like 6 different schools if you wanted. It almost became a joke. But volleyball, you would verbal, basically stay at that school until your signing day, and then you signed an NLI, National Letter of Intent. It became official. You went to that school.
Yep. That's
but
what
now
I did.
That's gone.
That's going to blow everything up.
Yeah, and we don't know what that's replaced with quite yet.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky, because we can make assumptions, like what I did, saying like NLI is going to be replaced potentially with the name, image, and likeness thing. I think the name, image, and likeness thing is kind of taking over sports, and it's getting into college volleyball more and more. People at first, I think it was originally like, it's football. That's what we see in the headlines is football, men's basketball. And then I think women's basketball started transitioning in there, and volleyball is now right there with it. So it's a dangerous line to dance on right now, saying if that's exactly where it's going to go. But I think it's a fair guess. It's completely a guess for me right now. I don't have any background on it, but I think that's where it could lean, especially with this is a whole nother rabbit hole, but the revenue sharing that's about to start happening with the NCAA. And
yeah, and that's more, we try and talk more factual with what we know, and asking around and talking with coaches, which is what we've tried to do in understanding recruiting and putting it out there with the sources that I've talked with anyways. A couple ideas that I've heard the most of have been more the revenue sharing is coming. A model I've heard is, they've been asking all programs or departments to raise an additional 20% or $20 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that, and that number is not even right, but it increased our budget to share with athletes.
Yep.
So there's going to be some kind of sharing with athletes, and that's above and beyond the scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So they will be paid to play in some way. Now, there's also been talk of almost a salary cap system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is a whole new discussion. And then that could be replaced with NIL. And then you have the roster sizes now of 18, which creates different situations, whether it's good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Normally, what I've said, and the two sources I think that I trust the most in the coaching world have both told me that, this is effective right away. So November 14th, I believe, is signing day for the 25s. By the way, we will have signing day special. Don't share that with any other sites because they'll copy that as well. But we'll have something, and we'll be talking to some 25s as they have their big moment. But what coaches have told us is that if anybody tells you they completely understand the rules, that they're lying. They just don't know. And what I ask you, Mac, from an athlete's perspective, this gives me anxiety, and I have no skin in the game other than running a website. How does this affect a 17-year-old that, you know, a lot of them are heading to college in January?
Right. It changes everything because you expect it to go a certain way. You sign on signing day, that is your agreement with your university, and that's where you're going to school. And now with this getting rid of this letter of intent, now there's like some gray area in there where it's like, okay, I'm signing something, I think, on signing day. What does that mean for my future? What does that mean in January when I get to school? Does that stand true still? There's just so much unknown that as an 18-year-old kid, you're like, okay, I think I know what I'm getting myself into, but at this point I have no idea.
Yeah.
It could all get blown up.
And I don't think anybody truly knows. People are guessing. And again, unfortunately, from what I've seen as an elder statesman in the sports fan community, in my years following the squeaky clean organization that the NCAA always has been, every rule made usually only benefits those programs way up to the top. And they don't help the smaller schools, right? It's the schools with more money and more resources, and they can research better, they can hire more, they can do more. And and you know, like, think if you talk about a salary cap system, well, you go out and literally hire a lawyer to manage the salary cap, right? And as crazy as that sounds, so yeah, it's happening a lot there. My advice to parents, as you're sitting there, it's so stressful anyways, right? And know that coaches are feeling it too, right? You imagine let's just say Creighton, right? Creighton, you're number 6 in the country. And they have they have like 8 seniors on this team. Best year, I think, right now, season in program history, highest ranked.
Yes.
And oh, by the way, we may have to negotiate, you know, like immediately after our season. We have no clue what that really means. We have to hire somebody, you know, I mean,
we're going to now have to try and figure out ways to keep our class staying in its class. So we've recruited all these kids, and now all of a sudden the letter of intent's gone, and now we have to figure out, we got to find our lawyers, we got to find all these people to keep our class where we want them. It's going to be crazy.
Like, hotel rooms at the Final Four are expensive enough, everybody. Like, I used to go, when I started this whole thing, I just paid for those so I could go and like connect with people. And all the coaches were like, it's a family reunion. And last year, the volleyball was amazing. The fandom was amazing, but the family reunion part is like gone because Coach Johnson is in for 18 hours and then they have to fly home. Why? Because there's a transfer on campus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're there for like half a day, and then their assistant flies in for half a day. And then, oh, by the way, they get a phone call and, oh, your starting middle just entered the portal. So they got that news. And no, oh, by the way, you got to go and manage your salary cap.
Yeah. It's turning, college coaches are now kind of becoming general managers. Like, they're no longer college coaches and they have to like manage the business of it all, which is crazy. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure that's going to make everybody just want to stick around.
I was going to say, that's not what they signed up for.
That's right. Yeah. And so, well, hey, let's see if there's anything on our list that is positive. Hey, let's talk about, moving on, other news this week. Aniya Warren, Under Armour All-American, and one of those 25s had previously committed to Indiana, decommitted, and she's going to Purdue. Mm-hmm. And first of all, I love this kid. Her volleyball is off the charts. I don't know her close enough to talk about her attitude when I have seen her and interacted with her. I love the kid.
Yeah.
But the whole point, what did you think of the decision? Our social media sure blew up, so it must have been a fairly big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big deal anytime a volleyball player decommits from one school and goes to another school, let alone the in-state rivalry of it all. Add that to the mix. But I mean, I think just talking to her and hearing about where her head was at, what she was thinking with the fact that like she committed because she felt like she had to and maybe wasn't even ready. And I can relate to that. I committed back when I was being recruited. The rules were different. Surprise. But
Right.
I was recruited when I was like a 8th grader, before I was even a freshman in college. And I committed before then because I felt like I had to. That was kind of the gist of it. And I didn't end up going to where I was committed to. So I was another one of those, like, it kind of flipped on its head. So I think it was really surprising to see her do that, but I respect the heck out of her decision because she backed it with a lot of like heart and fact, and like it didn't feel right, and I thought about it. She even said she prayed on it and she did what she felt was best for her.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't, well, we'd love it if you would subscribe to the site. But the interview with her there, and then we actually did a totally separate interview with her that will air, and she's going to come on and speak to a couple of our different segments that we're starting. She's going to talk to our Str8 Talk Recruiting group because it's perfect. And people that know me know I'm a college fan. I love college sports, and I do not. I'm a football guy, and unfortunately, I chose the University of Minnesota football program to follow for 30 years. You've heard this. And I hate decommits, and I hate poaching. And if it's going that way, it's not good for you mid-level programs, okay? And Mac played at Ohio State, and then she transferred to Penn State. And for years, the Ghosts would, like, work their rear ends off, and we'd get, like, a 4-star, and that was great until Ohio State would miss out on their number 1 target. And then they would just come on in at the end, and then they would just grab our 4-star. Hold on. And that was poaching, right? And that's what happened. That's not what happened here or volleyball at all. But that's not what happened. I don't like decommitting at all. But I do understand what Amaya said, and I don't like, we understand on both ends, I guess.
Yeah.
I know why coaches put deadlines out there.
Mm-hmm.
I totally do.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see why commits feel the pressure. But I can also see why later on, when they grow up and they mature and they see other options, they say, hold on, I never got a recruiting period.
Right.
I committed in 2 days. Right. And we'll say it till we're blue in the face again. The 26th class was crazy. It was, and y'all can get upset with me and do whatever. And I'm sure you do, but
no,
don't know a school in a day. No matter how much research, Mac, tell them why I let my barking dogs out, that June 15th, I don't care what you've done, you don't know the program. That's why every 20-year-old playing college volleyball, we ask them if they know anything more, and they all say, absolutely, I didn't know anything when I was that age.
Yeah, they give you like this whole, like, we talk about it, the princess treatment on your visit. So this is even before you get on campus. Like, everything can seem so shiny and new. I mean, June 15th, you haven't even been on campus, but like even further down the road, when you go on like those official visits and stuff like that, it still is not what it's going to be. But the more time that you can spend with players, with girls that are already on the team, with girls in your class that are committed, stuff like that, you've got to give yourself the chance to experience all of that. And these kids that are committing on June 15th are not allowing themselves the chance to talk to players that play for the current coach, aren't giving themselves the chance to talk to the coach because they haven't had that chance yet. You can't talk to the coach until that day. How do you know that you want to play for them yet? So the fact that these kids are feeling like they have to commit on June 15th is absolutely crazy. Like, and the amount of girls this year that did that, I was so surprised. There were so many kids that I'm sure people don't want to hear this from me either, but there are so many kids that I think if they would have taken a back seat and waited a week, even 2 weeks to like see what their options were, I think a lot of coaches would have let them, especially some of those kids in like the middle tiers, some of those mid-range schools that are fighting to be in the top 25, stuff like that. Kids are committing as soon as they possibly can because they're afraid to miss out on things. But I think if you would wait a week, you would realize that you have way more time than you think you do.
Yeah. And we're going to hear it because I've asked and I've asked the top recruits in 26 class why. Now maybe a hometown kid, right? Like Henley, you grew up in Austin, you've gone to 8 million games, you interacted, maybe, right?
There's some exceptions.
Right. Your dad's the coach, you might know the program. Right. But there aren't many. And, going back to Aniya, people understand we're not ripping the other staff, nor was she. If you need to go back and listen, she was more of, I looked at a lot of things. I looked at, and what she did was over 15 months, a lot of homework that she didn't get to do the first time. Right. And again, I do not, anybody that texts with me, whether it's been football for 25 years or the last couple of years of volleyball, I do not like decommitting at all. It upsets me because I've been that coach, that works that hard to get that kid. Now, in volleyball, you only work for a day or two sometimes, right? But, you do.
It's fair, yeah.
If
the way
if
it
you're
looks.
doing it the right way, you're only working for a day or two because, you're going to the tournaments just like I am, and then you're only calling them for 2 days. But if you take those other sports and you recruit them for a year and a half, and like with football, you have to be more of a babysitter. And that's what it comes to when it becomes, you got to sign, you got to get the verbal, and then you have to recruit them harder up until signing day to make sure, not picking on your former school, but in football, the Gophers have to babysit them longer to make sure, the helmet school doesn't come in and poach them at the end, right? Like, I'm serious.
It's so fair. And I think so when they changed the rule to June 15th, which is new-ish, it used to be that coaches could, as soon as you were a recruitable athlete, so that 8th grade was you were a recruitable athlete. And as soon as you hit that 8th grade freshman year mark, they could start talking to you and you could go on unofficial visits. You couldn't do an official visit until later, but at least there was time to kind of get to know the coaches. This might be a hot take from me, and I hated when the kids were making decisions in 8th grade, when I was making a decision that early and I still ended up somewhere else. So I don't think that was the solution, just to have it kind of be free range. But it feels like when they moved the deadline back to June 15th for the sophomore, junior class, summer date, whatever year they're in between that year, it's made them stress out through their freshman and sophomore year and do absolutely nothing in those 2 years. There's so much that you can be doing between your freshman and sophomore year that kids aren't doing because they think that June 15th is the day.
Yep.
That's the misconception.
Yep. Well, and we'll move on. What I want to do before we move on from this is to say what like the coach's point of view is, right? And so what a coach would look at is this, and to defend them is, they're going to look and, so some coaches will say, I'll never give a kid a deadline. Well, we want you. That that scholarship's there. Now, with having the extra roster spots, maybe that matters, right? I don't understand all that yet. And different staffs handle that different ways as well. You know, how they handle a late commit, right? Certain staffs have different roster sizes than others, you know, and so there's a whole lot that goes into it. But to defend what I believe from the coaching staff is this, because I've talked with some of them. They said last year we took that nice guy approach, and we said, Mac, we want you. You're our number one. This scholarship, we will be here as long as you want. We will wait for you. You are if we had our PPV pyramid up here, you are our one. You're the one we want.
Yep.
Right. And then you said, hey, I want to look around. I want to do that. I want to take my, Kari Spears took months, which seems like decades to the 26 class. Right.
Right.
And they waited. And then after months, you go to my rival. Well, now I missed you. And then I missed our number 2. And I missed our number 3. And our number 4, and now I have nobody.
Yep.
Right? And so now I either wait and I have to get a transfer. And that's what the coach will say, like, if I'm going for a setter and we're at we're a number 30th power ranked team in the country, and I have to make that jump, there might only be a range of 3 to 4 in the country that make us better, that are in our zone. Again, people, we'll talk about all this with our pyramid, our PPV pyramid, but I only have 3 or 4 that are in our zone that are interested, and that's why they do it, because we need to lock you up. And if I wait and wait and wait, and then you say no, everybody else is gone and I have nobody. And so that would be why coaches do it. I understand, but I'm not saying it's fair. And coaches would say it's not fair either. They would just say it's the rules. So then, Mac, if the rules aren't fair, then wouldn't it make a lot of sense to just
make a change?
Right.
Crazy how that works.
But that takes a long time, is what I'm told.
It shouldn't.
Right.
That's a whole other thing.
Guys, it's so easy. Well, y'all know the rules are broke. Right?
Fix them.
It's not good for you. And it's obviously not good for the kids. And you're all complaining about it. Like, fix them and then sit down and get them right the next time you change that, because it's not just parents, it's other sports. We interviewed Marley Smith's father, who's a Division I basketball coach for 20 some years. And I'm like, hey, this is why I started doing this, because a long time ago, I was a football coach, and I'm like, volleyball recruiting's messed up. He's like, yeah, it is. Basketball coaches say that all the time, and basketball recruiting is messed up.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you know, like,
make some change. Yeah.
Right. Easy for me in literally my cheap seat. But I'm, and that's what we're trying to do, I guess, is like, fix it, don't blame it. So you have to put them in bad spots, because it's not good for the kids. It's not. And not only the decommits, because what's going to happen? I mean, what I loved about Aniya Warren, back to our topic, what I loved on the other interview that we'll post on VBAdrenaline.com here in a little bit, what I loved is when she said, we talked about football players, and I said, please tell me volleyball is not going where football is, where literally our if we can say there are counterparts, but 24/7 Sports, the major recruiting site in football. One of their most popular content pieces is called the Decommits of the Week.
Yeah.
Literally, they have a column that is their most clicked on. That's called the decommits of the week. So they have a guy, his only job is to write about the top decommits. And that's all he does.
I hope that volleyball is not on that train.
And
we don't want to see the decommits. Like you said, we don't want to see that. But I think the way to see less decommits is for kids to take their time and make sure they know more about the programs that they're picking.
Yeah, and Aniya referred to 8 names, and I thought she put it very well last year when we talked to her. And she handled it maturely. And Aiden said, listen, I'm a much different young woman than I was 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
My family lives here. My heart is here. I'm different. And I didn't have a problem with that. I had a hard time arguing that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like my thoughts are different. And one of the things we talk about, and we'll talk about in our Str8 Talk recruiting, is advocating. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I hired you is because you're so sassy, but that's called advocating. Right? Like at 15.
Mm-hmm. Stand up for yourself. Go.
It's hard.
It is hard, but go get the information. You gotta give yourself the time and the chance. And like 15, Aniya said she was like, I didn't know what I wanted. This felt like the right choice at the time. And like you said, she had nothing poor to say about the other program. It was more about how she changed and how she realized, like, okay, I am a different person. I can stand up for myself. I know more of what I want. And then she was able to make that choice. That's what I found when transferring versus getting recruited the first time. I was in a much better headspace transferring as a senior in college. Obviously, I knew way more different stages of life, but the ability I had to go into a conversation with these top Division I coaches and just be like, look, this is what I'm looking for. Do our likes match up? Are we looking for the same thing? All of that. And that's something that these 15, 16-year-olds might not have quite yet. But once you get 16, 17, 18, you're going to develop those skills and it's going to come easier. And that's waiting a little bit longer allows you the chance to do that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I think we've had people, a couple, not a ton. I guess I hope more do, because that means we're doing our job. It's part of our mission statement and it's not going to change. Is that we're trying to educate and empower prospects to advocate for themselves, because they have just as much right to advocate for themselves at 16 in the recruiting process as they do at 20.
Yep.
And I can talk to a 20-year-old. I did. She's having a pretty good year in the Big Ten right now. I talked to her last January, and she was very adamant about what she wanted and what she deserved. And when she went and talked to the coaches the second time around, and I'm like, did you do this, 3 years ago? And she's like, heck no, right? And she had very influential parents. It wasn't that stood up for her. And you think about the kids that don't come from all the means, and the parents are just as, scared as the kids are.
Right.
And we're just saying, like, let them advocate, and because they're scared or FOMO, right, that shouldn't be the reason that you commit.
Gosh, FOMO should not be the reason you commit. Like, you should not be committing because your friends are doing it.
Well, yeah, or I'm scared to death
that I'm going to miss out on school A.
Yeah.
Look, school B, this opportunity that you don't know about could be that much better if you give yourself the chance.
Yeah.
I think we can talk about this all day.
Right. And you would want, and again, it's not throw schools under the buses. It's not. It's just to make sure the athletes get the opportunity to make their best decision. Mm-hmm. And then there won't be as much of the decommitting, and they're locked in, and that makes the process better. But Aniya did, and good for her, and she'll find out. And you go on, and she advocated, but she's a great player and a big pickup. But bigger news on how, to us, you saw a young lady with confidence, and the way she spoke was, I mean, it's empowering to us because it just was a positive thing for her to watch, how she spoke and the confidence, in her voice, which for a bro, I think that's what I want, right?
Oh yeah, go look at my latest article on the 27s liberos that I just wrote about. I like a bro that's got a chip on her shoulder. I want my libero to be the one on my side in a dark alley against somebody else. I don't want her on the other side, that's for sure. She seems like Aniya seems like one of those bros that she's going to stand up for her people.
She is. Another one, Sydney Burley, if anybody's listening out there. But okay, so moving on. We are going to move on. We're going to hit on some other things that tie back to everything else. I need to talk about our new staff, and we've obviously talked about Mac, but to me, y'all know, me running the ship alone was, we were all over the place, as you know, and people are like, you keep saying we, but you're the only one posting articles here for a while. It was just me and Zach helped me enter numbers for a long time. So I can finally say we and be talking in the correct tense. So I am very, very excited about the little team we have going now. And so that started with Mac coming on as a volleyball director of operations and what she's doing. And I'm going to tell you, I told you people, I tried for a couple of years to hire, well, I guess she's not a former athlete. She's still a current athlete, but athletes with communication degrees that got done with college. And when they got done, they were like, heck no. Either it was like, that's all you can pay me, or I'm playing pro. I want nothing to do with another job. And so Mac has already helped a ton. And I'm going to let her talk in a second about what else she's doing. But we've talked about Casey and our social media.
Killing it.
You all, yes. America knows that we have a different social media person. And hey, that's what you get. When all you got's a 52-year-old male doing social media, you get what you get. And now you can tell, and she is amazing. And Casey coaches at NC Academy, and she just reached out and said, hey, I love what you guys do, and I'd like to be a part of it. And that's pretty cool. She is crushing it, and she's a huge volleyball fan, which helps so much. And so give her a shout out. And the other thing that's awesome is she loves talking volleyball with us as she's doing all those. So she has made a big difference. And then we have to give Sydney Basinger from our first of our student interns a shout out. She has been doing, first of all, she is a student athlete from Creighton, playing on the number 6 ranked team in the country, Creighton's best team, I believe, in school history, just wiping up in the Big East this year. And Mac, we can't give her assignments fast enough.
She's cranking them out. I was looking at the site. I was looking at all of the things that we've got, and it's like we can't keep up with our graphics. We're like trying to make graphics fast enough to keep up with her writing articles.
I forgot how late those college kids stay awake. I'm like, old man's trying to sleep and my phone's dinging. I'm like, tomorrow. But she's been awesome. We gave her the college beat just to up more of her college and then college content. And then last week we said, hey, knock it off. We need to do more prep stuff to keep up with you. So Sydney Baser out of Creighton is amazing with what she's doing. It is so refreshing. The insight, first of all, that she can give us and the ideas that she is giving us. So Sydney is crushing it. And this is even in season when I guess they're always kind of in season, but she is excited to help us even more after they make, she said after they make a Final Four run, she is ready to help more. And I said, well, hey, we'll interview her then from the Final Four. So so she's been amazing, and we can't give her enough shout outs because it's crazy. We have another student intern, we hope, ready to get started. We have a couple content creators that are out there getting their feet wet and getting going, doing some more regional stuff. And then Zach is still doing our data entry, which we know is starting to work because we've gotten some fan feedback. It is great hearing from the fan bases, and I love going at it with the fans. That's what I love, good and bad. It means they're paying attention, and Nebraska is still, Wisconsin, you're trying, but the Husker fans are still just a little bit more passionate. And just like in recruiting, Pitt Panther Nation is gaining steam. They are.
Pitt on social media, especially. I've been seeing them on my TikTok even. Like Pitt fans are. That fandom is growing.
And now Louisville's got some fans, but it's like they kind of feel like us Minnesota fans, where they have this chip, like they think something's going wrong. I'm like, relax, guys, you got an amazing team.
Right. I know.
And you got DBK down there. Like, what else do you want? And you have, like, you and Pitt should just be riding high, because if you don't know what's coming, they both have back-to-back amazing recruiting classes coming in, where we've talked about it. I've talked about it too much because I get fan mail from other classes like, what are you, like, taking bribes? Which, no, by the way, I just love how hard we've talked about it too much, but relax, Ville Nation. Like, things are good.
Good. You're good. Everything's going well, and it's only getting better.
I mean, did they sweep Stanford, or they win 3-1?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, nobody got to see it because it was on, like, the Cartoon Network, but
ACCXN Plus.
Right. Like, how many subscriptions do you have to get to that thing?
I know.
Like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't see it. I don't know.
How many boxes do you have to get ACCXN Plus? But
yeah.
Anyways, but it was an amazing match. And you battle them with controversy, and I guess some replay was a little lengthy, and, like, we had the whole gamut.
Yeah.
And I had a very reliable volleyball source said that's played on a neutral site. That is a coin toss.
For sure.
Match. And you get there, you don't even have to play them on a neutral site. It's in the Yum Center. Like, just keep rolling. Then you go to SMU and crush them.
Yeah.
That hasn't been easy to do this year.
That's an impressive team coming out of nowhere.
I mean, that travel, you're good. Just enjoy.
Everything's good.
Right? Like, don't be a jaded Minnesota sports fan. Just enjoy it. Like, you're good. You're good. Just okay. But yeah, so that's going good. And so our staff, I just want to end on this. It's good people. If you can subscribe. We put out more content the last 2 weeks than I think we had about 6 weeks theirs. And we're not doing it with rankings. We're still not just going to throw rankings in your face. It's not what we do. Max watched film on about 300 2027s. What are you liking? What are you learning about the prep scene?
There's a lot to it. I think it's a lot of watching film, which isn't my favorite. I don't love watching the highlight tapes, I guess, isn't my favorite. I like to watch a full game of volleyball. So I'm learning as I go, but I'm spending lots of time on YouTube just watching full games. And it's fun to, like, watch a full game and I'm looking for one player, but then I'm like, oh wait, who's that kid? Who's this one? Who's that one? So then I'm kind of finding out more about the whole team. I'm diving into the West Coast teams right now because I think I know there's a lot of good volleyball on the West Coast. They've always been a powerhouse out there. So I'm kind of trying to jump in with both feet on the West Coast and learn a little bit more about their style, but I'm enjoying it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch good volleyball, and there's a lot of really talented 2027s.
Yeah, it is. And this is the year. You're watching full matches?
Sets.
All right. We got a lot to do. You better just
don't worry. I'm watching a lot of kids. The data bank is growing. Okay. I'm watching a lot of kids. But I'm
liking 4 points and call it good. But that's why
you gotta get to know the players. Come on. I'm too invested.
Well, I've also been drinking a lot of coffee in convention centers for a couple of years, but I just ask people a lot smarter than me and write down notes well. But okay, so when we go on, so our staff is amazing people. Please consider give us a shot. I think it's I'm excited about what we come, and I want Mac to talk about this because I know it's our podcast, but it all ties into what we're doing because we are all about recruiting. So Mac, talk to him about some of the things you're bringing on. We finally launched our Str8 Talk Recruiting. So touch on that, and then your other big project that we're going to have coming.
Yeah. So Str8 Talk Recruiting, we finally got that up and running. It's kind of been a labor of love trying to figure out which direction we're going with it and where we want to go. But I think we finally settled on that. Like, our goal at VBAdrenaline is to do things differently. And something that this site is plain and simple, it's different. It's not what you're getting from everybody else. It's not this like, oh, recruiting is all rainbows and butterflies and everybody gets what they want out of it. It's the nitty gritty truth of the fact that recruiting is tough and it's a lot to it. I mean, we spent the first 30 minutes of this podcast talking about the ups and downs of just one tiny section of recruiting. So we created this platform to be able to talk about all of the different ins and outs of recruiting. And our goal at the end of the day is to empower athletes, prospects, and their families and their parents to feel like they are going into it making the right decision for them. So Str8 Talk is just like this kind of all-encompassing recruiting site where we're trying to give people a little bit more insight on how to make that decision a little bit easier.
Yeah, and we are not a recruiting service. We don't find schools. We don't refer schools. We pass that off. We're a media company, but we follow recruiting. And just in the last week, Max had somebody reach out. I've had somebody reach out, and their parents that even if they play for big clubs, and we want to preface this, we are not doing the job of recruiting coordinators, right? We are not a multi-$1,000 pay us recruiting service. That's not what we do. I wouldn't know how to charge that, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't.
We're not going to send you to school A, B, or C. No. We don't care where you end up. We hope you end up somewhere where you are happy and that you have a successful, enjoyable career, however you want that to be. We want to teach you how to find that, how to get yourself from point A to B. We are not going to do it for you.
Right. We're not going to talk to anybody specifically. We are putting information out there because we still have parents come up to us all the time and they go to large clubs. Mm-hmm. We know those recruiting coordinators. We're not doing their job. They're amazing. That's what they do. But they may work with, you look at some of the major clubs. Like, we love Legacy Volleyball. Look at their team. We've interviewed almost their entire nationals team already. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not going to even mention their center because everybody knows who I'm already talking about. But maybe my favorite kid in the class, but they have so many kids, mm-hmm. and there's so many more we haven't even met yet. Imagine being their recruiting coordinator and having the individual needs of every single one. And they're just parents that maybe have individual questions or coming up, they haven't even got into that system yet. Yeah. And they'll stop us and we're just like, hold on, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't. The other thing is people coming up and asking us, we've never charged for this stuff. And we got lights to, keep on as well. And it's just like, hey, it's something we want to be affordable. And if we spread our knowledge, and our mission has always been to improve the education of prospects and their families to relieve some of the anxiety of this. We're not going to tell you go here. And it's not a rip fest on anybody. It's not. It's if Mac could have had somebody explain to her and her family before, and you guys were fairly well connected in the volleyball world, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And people just need more, they just need more education, especially now. And I think we're really good at saying we don't know it all.
Right.
But the people we talk to know a heck of a lot more than we do. And we're charging like one arm of a sweatshirt at the Triple Crown NIT, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
Just one time, skip a hoodie at skip a hoodie at a qualifier, and you pay for like a quarter of the year.
Yeah, trust me, those hoodies will go in the trash anyways in a couple years.
Especially now, they don't fit. But so we do that. But then talk about the other thing. Start.
So what we're working on, we've got this big idea coming up here soon. So stay on the lookout for this. But we're creating something called the Players Club. So we've talked to a lot of players, a lot of coaches who have discussed the fact that there are so many top players out there that have no idea what they're getting themselves into necessarily when it comes to going to school. There's a lot of freshmen playing right now. Like we're seeing a lot of freshmen, especially setters, making a big impact. I think that's a lot of fun. But all players, every division, every level, there are players that are going to school making a huge impact. So we're creating something called the Players Club. It's going to be an exclusive subscription where you can jump on for the year and get information from the source. This is made by athletes and it's for athletes. We are trying to talk athletes through the ups and downs, the top prospects, things that nobody else is touching on because nobody else wants to talk about, the nitty gritty, the ins and outs that you have to deal with as one of the best in the nation. So we want to create a place for those top athletes to come to get that information, and not only get it from other athletes that have played the game, that are part of the game now, but their peers as well. Talk amongst other athletes that are in their class, get to know those girls, get to know what they're going through, and kind of create this community, a little bit more unity, so that everybody can kind of bounce ideas off each other and realize that you're not alone in the struggles that you're dealing with. And like, this is a crazy up and down thing, but it's all gonna figure itself out. And we want to teach you and show you what's out there.
Yeah, and so we call the Players Club. It'll be starting out by invite, just so we can handle kind of the size. As we grow up, it'll be something led by Mac. We'll each do some lessons. Again, it'll be like a community type post, but it'll help you deal with things like dealing with, the media, how, dealing with, your high school friends when you're the only one that gets interviewed and they're jealous, and dealing with feelings like that. And how do you manage your time if the new recruiting timelines come into effect and you get 6,000 calls in a night, and learning to say no, and things that maybe not every prospect deals with on a day-to-day basis. And learning. But another thing that it will be is learning to take constructive criticism that maybe top prospects haven't had to deal with a lot in up till now in their careers, which is a really big thing when you get to that elite level. And it's something that we've really found as we've done evaluations, and sometimes a lot of elite athletes really struggle with that because they've never had that. And a lot of this input comes from Mac, bringing her experience, both at the college, going through the USA system, and at pro. You understand that it's not all, like we said, roses and candy. It becomes very elite, and you just have to deal with things that maybe not everybody does. And so it's a mindset. And the final thing that you all know is really important to me. It's training the right kind of leaders. And so there'll be a lot of leadership training from great leaders at the next level. And you can take it for what it's worth. So we think it's positive, but it's peer training as its max goal to connect college to prep and club and make it more of an inclusive family. So Mac brought that idea, I think, the best initiative that she has. And so we'll start small and build it and see if we can build our community. So exciting there. We'll wrap up. Mac, anything before we wrap up this edition?
I don't think so. I'm excited to go call some volleyball this weekend. I'll be on the Big Ten Network, so I'm going to go check that out. Check out Maryland, Purdue. But watching some good volleyball this weekend coming up. That's all I got.
Mac's heading to BTN country to her side gig, and I'm heading down to Texas. I'm going to go eat some steak and, maybe check out some barbecue and go check out some national championship trophies. So they've been getting on me about coming and check the facility. So I'm heading down there. Excited for that. Everybody, we'll let you go. It's been the VBAdrenaline podcast. Thank you. We're excited to be back and be on the air more often. We're going to talk about topics like this. They get a little heated. They get a little crazy. We'll have guests. Give us your comments. Give us your feedback. Make sure you're following us on social media. And again, we encourage you to subscribe. A lot of new content, college fans, prep fans, learn about everything going on in the world of recruiting. For Mac Podraza, I'm Darren Tipton. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.